Welcome to the Muslim blog. Today we'll talk about whether or not it's legitimate for a person to technically talk about topics that are obvious to practically everyone. In that sense though, in order for the person to talk about it, the person must exonerate exactly, but let's say for example, when a person is talking about an obvious topic, do we care about any subject? The person can talk about it from an umbrella perspective though. If the person talks about it from a general perspective, or whatever that may entail, then a person can be accused of any topic. If the person is talking about a legitimate topic from an appropriate perspective, which is analytically, then a person can talk about rational analysis though, okay? When we have an individual that studies topics that are serious, a person can talk about it from an analytical perspective. In that sense though, if the person does talk about it from that perspective, the person can talk about nearly any topic then. But if the individual talks about a subject though, the issue is whether the alleged topics are something else. But when a person is talking about a subject like whether or not a mother has a right to kill her children, then a person would talk about it in an appropriate topic though, right? Like a person can say the topic is based on a number of rational things and that kind of thing, but if the baby comes from the mother's own body, why can't she kill the child then? In that sense though, a person can then talk about something that insane from a rational perspective though. A person can say, well, it has to do with any number of topics and that kind of thing. But when someone says, well, exactly, but a human being has to be able to talk about any number of topics without having to succumb to a person that is obviously any number of topics though. Let's say the person is perverse, right? Like, do we care about its topics? In that sense, okay, if we have a particular topic where a person talks about whether or not an elephant is present, okay, in that sense, if a person's purpose is to come into the room, and we all know that beforehand, and deny the elephant and talk about any number of topics and say the secretions are not so bad and talk about whether it's there or whether it's here, if we knew that beforehand, then the person would say, I can't wait for that person to talk about any number. But in that sense though, if the person knows that topic, regardless of what anyone says though, then we talk about any number of subjects related to that. A person can analyze any number of topics, or a person can say no. We just have to wait out the topic, the thing will talk about things we don't care about, and so on. But in that sense though, if the person is talking about the topic of any number of subjects though, the issue is that if there's an individual that is talking about a topic that is that serious from a perspective that is rational though, then a person has to see the legitimating person as any number of topics. So when we look at a particular subject, the issue was whether that elephant belongs in a room though. If the person says a person is talking about nearly any subject, the issue is whether we knew that there was a person beforehand to do any number of those topics. If the person comes into the room, what if it's alarmist and nervous and shaking? Exactly. When a person is knowing any number of topics, it has to do with we don't care about anything exactly, but if the person is talking about nearly any topic though, if a person is talking about any number of perspectives though, we can say the defense is it is defending yourself against it though. If the human being understands that thing is going to burst into the room at a particular time, it's going to talk about anything, it's going to be nervous, it's going to be shaking, it's going to be all those things. The issue is whether someone can talk about a topic in a rational way though. If the individual is in the room, the person may attempt to talk about it, but the issue may be that we know that it has to exit at some point. But if the person is talking about it from any perspective, a person can say, let's just wait till the thing in terms of it. But what I tell persons about a rational topic is something very basic though. When persons know that beforehand, then the thing's topics cannot affect a person if they are any number of secure topics though. If the person is talking about a particular topic though, The issue is whether a human being can know these subjects without having to succumb to any number of evidentiary bases that have no topics. For example, if the person is talking about a particular subject, a person can know these things by their very nature, though. A person does not have to be told topics that they may or may not know. Like, if the person understands that persons who are talking about these topics are persons of that nature, then the person has no problem saying Hollywood is evil. But if the person says Hollywood is evil, every human being viscerally, exactly, but what I show the person is something very specific, though. When a person then tries to hide it in a particular context, that's when things get serious. When persons treat the topic as if it's something that is based on the life's goal of someone. In that sense, though, if the person talks about nearly any topic, the issue is whether that person that came and burst into the room and that kind of thing is now going to secretly dictate topics to persons. When a person understands the topic is about that, we can prove any number of subjects, but the best proof is what the human being knows about its own context. When someone is in a particular context, what is the type of thing we're talking about? We're talking about a being that talks about subjects that everyone knows is sick. When persons are in any kind of context, tell me who does not want to kill a celebrity. Let's just be honest. Part of the reason is for me justifying that, though. When a human being that is good and innocent has an intention that murderous, it's based on truth, yes or no. In that sense, if a person is in a particular context, the issue is the perverse subject. That sick thing has to be protected, and the human being that has a rightful murderous intention towards it should not. In that sense, though, when a person talks to me about a context, let me know. When we're able to talk about our own topics in the right way, let me know. If someone has a murderous intention against something that's obviously a devil, the person who is the good, innocent person should be protected from the devil. In that sense, though, if the person is talking about protecting the devil, to me, that is the perverse discourse. Everywhere it goes, it should be shot to death. In that sense, though, if the person is then talking about the fact that it needs security, what I tell the human being is something very basic. They're the ones who need security. They're the ones who need protection from its topics. If an individual is going to talk about their own subjects, it has to do with whether we're permitted to be honest about something everyone knows, though. When a person is in any kind of context, can a human being finally defend themselves against these topics? When someone is placed in any kind of context, the issue is whether the human being can first talk about what is true. When we look at a topic that is this true, every human being that is rational and good has a visceral and murderous hatred towards the thing. In that sense, though, is it based on its topics, so it is attacking us from that perspective? A rational and good human being is brought to the point of murderous rage, and then we're talking about its topics? We're going to listen to it? We're going to sit there and listen to it talk about jealousy? Give me a fucking break. When a person is in a particular context, who cares about its topics? The issue is what it's endeavoring to do, and everyone knows that. When a human being that is rational and good is brought to a murderous rage, that is what deserves protection. That is what deserves discussion. In that sense, though, on top of that, we're going to let the thing talk about its topics? In that sense, though, a rational and good human being that is brought to a murderous rage, to me, that is the subject. That is what requires defense. That is what requires discussion. On top of that murderous rage, we're going to let the being dictate the topic to us. In that sense, though, when we look at insanity, it is that. A rational and good human being brought to a murderous rage. That is what has to be talked about. That is what has to be defended. On top of that, though, like, to me, I have to state that, though. On top of the fact that a human being is brought to a murderous rage, we have to talk about the being's topics? We have to talk about its topics? In that sense, though, if the person is talking about nearly any topic, the subject is obvious. Something that is that sick and disgusting, who cares about its topics? The issue is why a rational and good human being is brought to a murderous rage regardless of where they are. In that sense, I believe that is the topic. If the person at this stage is talking about the things topics, what I would tell the person is that they're in very small company, exactly, in that sense, and the next one we'll talk about it.